Tiffany with the Bloomery in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And today I want to take a moment and talk to you about soil samples. I'm going to tell you why you need to do them, how to do them, and then how to read the results and you apply it to your growing space. So there are a few reasons why pulling a soil sample will benefit you. One is because with all the events happening in our world right now, the cost of fertilizer has gone up tremendously. It's at record high prices, and you want to get the most bang for your buck. So if you know what's in your soil, you know exactly what to put on it, and you're not being wasteful with your mudding. Another reason is because plants have certain nutrient requirements, and if you want your plant to produce the best harvest or the best flowers, you're going to need to feed that plant the nutrients it needs. Another reason is so that you can monitor your soil pH. The more acidic a soil is, or the more alkaline a soil is, can affect the way your plants grow. So by monitoring your pH, you can adjust that with amendments to get a healthy plant. The fourth reason why you want to do a soil sample is so you know what amendments and fertilizers and compost to add to your garden. To do a soil sample, you just need a few things. You need a soil probe. You can actually find them on Amazon pretty cheap. For like $17, you can get a 12-inch probe. You need a bag to put it in. This is a soil sample bag, but you don't have to use that. You can use a Ziploc bag. And then you're going to need a bucket to put your core samples in and mix them together before placing them in the bag. If you don't have a probe, you can use a spade, but a probe is definitely going to be more accurate because it's going straight down into the ground. And sometimes when you use a spade, you tend to mix the dirt up and you're not getting an accurate reading. So the best time to take a soil sample is when the ground has some moisture in it. It's not too dry and hard, but it's also not muddy. So this soil is just right. It's soft, it's easy to probe, but yet it's not muddy and oversaturated. Okay, so this is our garden spot. This is where we're gonna plant our garden this year. And I wanna know if I need to amend the soil. So I'm gonna take several core samples from different areas, put them in this bucket, mix them together, and send them off to a lab to get a good reading. So the first thing you wanna do is mark your soil probe or whatever you're using to dig your sample about 6 inches deep, because that's where most of the roots for your plants are going to grow, about 6 inches deep, and that's where you're going to need to check all the nutrients. So it's really easy to do. All you have to do is to go to where you're going to plant your garden, push your soil probe down to that 6-inch mark. I'm going to turn it, try to get a really good sample. I'm going to pull it back out. You can see that I've got a really good core sample here. I'm going to dump it in my bucket. That's the tricky part, sometimes pushing it out. And then I'm going to go collect some more samples.
If you are growing in raised beds, it's also a good idea to take soil samples from that as well. Be sure that you get several core samples from different areas of your raised bed to send into the lab.
I've got my soil sample in my bucket. I blended it all together and I'm going to fill up this bag. So let's get that done. I'll put my soil in the bag. I'm going to fill it up to the line where it says. And I have labeled my bag, which is really important to do because you have multiple garden spots or multiple raised beds that you're pulling a sample from. You're going to want to remember when you get your report which area that came from. So be sure that you label it accurately. So this is garden field 1. Another spot would be garden field 2, or you could do raised bed 1, raised bed 2. So there are a couple different places where you can send your soil samples. There are labs that you can find online, but the best place that I think to send one is to your local extension office. So I'm going to take my soil sample to my extension office, and they're going to send it off to the University of Kentucky lab, and I'm going to get a report back. It's going to take about a week to get. In about a week, I'll have results that I can look at And I'm going to show you what some of those results look like.
This chart shows various pH levels across the top. You can see that the lower the pH, the more acidic, and the higher the pH, the more basic. The ideal pH is 6.5 to 7.0 for most plants. There are some plants, such as blueberries and azaleas, that need to be more acidic. It's really important for you to know the recommended pH for your plant or your garden. At the greenhouse, we like to keep our plants around 6.0 to 6.5. We do soil samples regularly to make sure that our plants have the nutrients they need and that the pH is allowing the plants to take up those nutrients. The white bands show the nutrients that plants need to grow. The first band is nitrogen, the next is phosphorus, all the way down to copper and zinc. The width of the white bands show how much of that nutrient is available at certain pHs. For example, at a pH of 6, you start losing phosphorus availability to the plants. You're also increasing nutrients such as boron. Too much of certain nutrients can cause toxicity. That's why it is so important to understand your soil pH for gardening. On a side note, now you can tell your teenager why they need to pay attention in chemistry class. Here is a sample of a soil test that we did on a field of corn. You'll notice that at the top it shows you the soil pH, and then it goes down and lists the different nutrients down the left-hand side. It's really easy to read because the bar graph shows you which nutrients are low, which ones are just right, and which ones are high. This allowed us to go in, amend the soil, and balance the nutrients so that we could have a good harvest. The great thing about soil samples is that they also give you recommendations. So when you look at the bottom of your results, it's going to tell you some things that you can do to improve the pH or to balance your nutrients better.
You can see why it's so important to take a soil sample, and it can give you so much useful information. Once you do that, you're going to have the best gardens that you've ever had.
Be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel with the Bloomery.